Okay, this is a brand new 2022 TRS XTrack. Wanted to do a video kind of going over the bike. I haven't really seen anything in depth at all on the internet, at least all in one cohesive kind of format. This bike has about 1 hour on it. Please excuse the mess and the noise of the traffic. I live on a busy road. So this bike is electric start. It is 300 cc's. So this is the 1 model. They offer in the XTrack, they offer the 1, which is the standard model, and they offer the RR. In the United States, there are no importations of the standard TRS trials bike, the TRS 1. The 1 only comes in as the XTrack. So what does that mean? Well, the 1 has a Öhlins shock, which is only 1 or 2-way adjustable, I believe. It's got steel foot pegs. These are S3 foot pegs, which I don't mind steel at all. To me, they're going to be durable. The 1 has a low compression cylinder head insert instead of the high compression insert. One thing I realized after I got the bike, it doesn't have the little cable adjuster here on the throttle cable. You're going to have to adjust it down with the carb. So that's a little annoying. The 1 also comes with the Delorto carburetor instead of the Keyhine. So it's not going to make quite as much power. So combined with both the carb and the cylinder head, it's definitely not going to make as much power as the R or RR models. Comes with aluminum tech forks. There's one more thing. Starting in 2021, I believe, the R and up models have a sight glass here and a fill plug here. The 1 comes with the standard cover, which is a little annoying. I will probably change that out because I really like a sight glass. The older model, up until around 2019, 2020 or so, TRS had a plug right here, and you would take this plug out and you would fill the transmission until it overflowed from that point. We no longer have that, so all you can do is just fill the bike with the recommended amount and hope it's correct, without a sight glass or without this plug here. I was curious. I couldn't tell from the pictures by looking at it if this is titanium or stainless. It is stainless. A magnet does have a little bit of a stick to it. For anyone that doesn't know, the 2021 and up TRS models, electric start, have the battery behind the headlight. From the pictures I've seen, it appears to be 4 18650 cells taped together, lithium cells. Your headlight button is here. It's a latching push button. The map switch is here. That just changes your timing a little bit and gives you a little more power, well, or it backs the power off. I believe these are BrakeTech brakes. They feel very good. I do notice the brake has the sight glass. The clutch does not have a sight glass. We'll take a look here under the seat. So this is just a quarter turn kind of bolt. It is captured with a little washer on the other side, which is kind of nice. So this comes off. Got a cubby here. I think this would be great to store some tools, possibly fuel if you have a small enough bottle. I have a 1 liter fuel bottle that will not fit in here, it's too fat, but maybe something like a 700 mil would. This is your air filter service area. The seat has these hooks here that hook into the back. This is like a hard rubber, almost neoprene feeling overmold basically over the seat. It is not comfortable whatsoever, and you really shouldn't buy this bike expecting to sit on the seat and be very comfortable. My purpose for buying this bike is mainly the fuel capacity and the electric start. So these little kind of fairings that make it look a little more dirt bike-ish, they are, I didn't realize this, but they're actually bolted here to the frame to a little mount, so that'll keep them from being grabbed by something and ripped off, I suppose. There's also a bolt here in the fuel tank, and then 2 more in the fuel tank down here. I do like that the the brake cable, the brake hose runs outside of the swing arm. That would make it a lot easier to replace if you have to. For example, this is my 2000 Gas TXT 280. I know it has a 2002 tank sticker, but I just like that tank sticker the best. This bike was originally red, and when I got it, it was hammered, so I painted the plastics yellow, which is kind of my favorite color. But for example, this bike, brake hose runs inside the swing arm, and I have had to replace this brake hose. This brake hose is basically brand new, and you have to pull the swing arm to get the damn hose out of the swing arm. So that's something to keep in mind. One thing I noticed, the graphics on the swing arm are different than in all the pictures I saw. I noticed the pictures all say Riger here, and since this doesn't have a Riger shock, I assume that's why that doesn't actually have that on there. This has the safety style rear sprocket, 40 tooth. The front sprocket is 10 tooth. As with all modern trials bikes, it's got a tubeless rear tire and wheel with all these newer bikes have the flange here with these turnbuckle style spokes. This bike here does not use the flange. These penetrate into the rim and it has to be sealed. There's a big thick rubber band with the air valve built in that's supposed to seal that, but this wheel has some corrosion on the inside and it no longer seals. When I got the bike, it had a tube in it because of that. I bought a new band for it and ran tire slime under the band, and that has sealed it perfectly. So I really do like the flange style on these. This bike is all the TRSs are 5-speed. Most modern trials bikes are 5 speeds, except for the gas, and the Beta 80cc models are 6 speeds as well. I was a little concerned about that because I really use these bikes for technical trails and want to be able to cruise trails and have a good gear spread. So far, riding it around the property, I really don't see a problem. I think the gear spread is fine. The first 3 gears are basically identical to the gas 6-speed. 4th is a little more spread out, and then 5th is spread out. Whereas on the gas, your first 4 gears are all at the same close ratio, and then your 5th and 6th spread out. So this bike will have a little bit lower top speed, which is generally okay for most of the places I ride. The thing I noticed that was a little odd is the fender is actually riveted onto the bracket. It is riveted in 3 places instead of bolted in 2 like that. I have weighed this bike. Out of the crate, it weighed 162 pounds with about 3/4 of a tank of fuel with oil. It weighs 167. This bike, I believe the published dry weight of these old gas bikes is 167. I weighed it with this tank at about 2/3, and it weighed 175.5. So this bike, with the seat, with the electric start, with more fuel, weighs 8.5 pounds less than this bike, which is pretty cool. One thing I'm not really fond of on all these modern trials bikes is this plastic end cap here. If you loop the bike out, it can rip it off. But actually feeling it in person, it feels like a pretty dense glass-filled nylon. So it actually feels pretty solid. This fender is quite stiff while still flexible, if that makes sense. It doesn't flop around. Like this one's pretty floppy, and it's not really as flexible, even though it's more floppy. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there. The clutch is probably a little lighter than the old gas. I'm not used to the engagement point, really. It engages way out here, like this last little bit is where all your engagement is. It's not a problem. Like it's not grabby at all. It's very easy to modulate. It's just different than I'm used to on the gas. But this gas, you also have to keep in mind the clutch drags quite badly. Even with the clutch pulled all the way in, with all your fingers, all the way up to the bar. But this bike, it really grabs as soon as you let out from, as soon as you let out from your hand. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over what exactly goes into these. The one thing I'm not really fond of is on the electric start bikes, there is no petcock in the fuel tank anymore because of the starter. So the petcock is remote mounted, which means if you want to pull this tank out, you have to pinch off this fuel hose. So I'm going to look into adding a secondary inline valve here so I can shut the fuel off and easily remove the tank. Also, these bikes are having some problems with crankcase pressure puking fluid out. This bike has already puked a little bit of transmission fluid out through this breather here. Kind of one of the recommended things to do is to just put a clear hose and kind of run it up the bike, and that extra length will help keep the fluid in it. Notice that the triple trees I don't think are as nice as the old gas. These appear just to kind of be cast. The bolts are relatively small. You go to the old gas, and these appear to be beefy forgings, and they've got quite a bit bigger bolts in there. Not that I really anticipate a problem either way. The old gas, I prefer how the handlebars are clamped, how it goes through the clamps, and you got two bolts, and this is a nice wide platform on the triple tree. Whereas the TRS comes down to, it's basically a yoke, and then you got a single bolt coming through here. I don't know. I'm sure it's plenty strong. It's just one of those things when you look at it, when you compare it to the other bike. These have Hebo grips. These are pretty grippy. I've got Renthal. I believe these are medium trials grips on this bike. These Hebos are definitely grippier. They're not really any softer, I would say, than these. I did order a set of neoprene, we've always called them booties, but a lot of people call them gaiters, neoprene protectors for the forks here. Because these are aluminum, if you drop it on some rocks, you're going to ding them, and that's definitely not good. I've had these booties on this bike forever, and they were getting pretty trashed, but these are steel forks on this bike. So yeah, it does come with the regular trials tank in the crate. So you just remove the tank, this kind of seat support thing here, and then you just drop the tank in, and it's a standard trials bike. One of the reasons I went with the XTrack is it seems to be the most kind of well thought out of these excursion type trials bikes, as they're called. The add-on seat for the Betas and the Scorpas just kind of seem hokey. They do hold more fuel, which is nice. The tank capacity on this bike is supposed to be 4 liters, which is like about 1.1 gallons. The old gas holds 0.85 gallons, which is about 3 liters. So with the fork tank on there, it holds the same amount of fuel as this bike. One thing I'm not really a big fan of is the fuel cap. There's not much to get a hold of on this thing to get it off of there. So that's kind of annoying. I did remove the vent and put just this little breather on there. The vent on a normal TRS, there's a nipple there that it plugs onto. On this bike, it just goes through a hole in the frame, and it's kind of annoying to stuff it down in there. One thing I've always loved on these gases is the kind of trick fuel cap. Super easy. So yeah, the gas has been a good bike. It's a 2000. I've had it since 2007. I got it for $700. It was beat and it had some top end noise. I finally rebuilt the top end a couple years ago. Unfortunately, it's already getting some noise back into the top end already with only about 12 hours on it, so I'm not sure. Not sure what the deal with that is. It's not as bad as it was when I got the bike yet, but it is a little concerning. So I get horrible fuel range on that bike. My dad has the identical bike in a 2002, and it seems like he can go 50% farther on the same amount of fuel. So I've never quite figured it out. The carb is fine. The plug looks great. It has great power. I'm hoping I can get a little more range out of this guy. The rear brake disc is larger than the gas. And this one even is a larger than stock. This is an aftermarket replacement for the original 4-piston caliper that they no longer make, and that caliper went bad, so I had to buy the 2-piston replacement, which is fine. It comes with this bigger disc. The factory disc is only about that big in diameter. So anyways, this bike starts and runs great. The starter is awesome. I have had a little trouble trying to kickstart it. It doesn't kickstart nearly as nice as the gas. I've heard that about the modern 300 gases is they don't like to start very well. So I don't know. I haven't really heard that about the TRSs, but I sure can't kick this thing and get it started super easily. One other thing, this brake pedal is a little bigger, gotta keep the camera pointed in the right spot, a little bigger, a lot easier to hit with your foot, which is nice. The water pump, the housing has a weep hole, so if you get a water pump seal leak, you will leak water out of the weep hole here instead of water into your transmission, which is nice. Yeah, Trying to think of anything else. The shifter, I think, when you look at it, it seems more vulnerable to being hit by something on the TRS. The engine's a little wider in the gas, and you can see it would more easily glance off there. So, just kind of one of those things. While we're here, this is the XTrack trials tank. You see, no petcock. It appears it's like some sort of ultrasonic plastic welding that they use to weld the bung in there, in the plastic. A little interesting. It comes with the, apparently you need different hardware to mount this tank, I'm not sure, but there's a bag of hardware there. It doesn't come with its own fuel cap, so plug that with something so critters and such don't crawl in there. There was one other thing I wanted to cover that I forgot earlier, and now I'm forgetting again. Oh. With the one model, you get Dunlop tires. The Michelins are a little softer, a little grippier. The Dunlops are, in my personal opinion, more durable, which I prefer for what I do. I'll take the extra puncture resistance that the Dunlops offer. Always run Dunlop on this bike as well. This bike has a brand new set of tires. There's one ride on them. So, one thing that my dealer did mention, he said grease these handlebar clamp bolts. I used anti-seize, which is, you know, grease plus a little extra insurance. Otherwise you can get some seizure of these appear to be stainless bolts in aluminum. Same thing with these clamps here for the master cylinders. He said to grease those as well, so I put just a dab of anti-seize on them. Yeah, so. Alright, it's the next day. I've put the bike in trials mode. It is a bit of a pain since there is no petcock. You have to disconnect the fuel line while you pinch it and then direct it into a bucket or a fuel can and let all the fuel out before you can take the tank out. But this is what it looks like. The seat support has a rubber pad on it where it rests on the fender here. And that rubber pad has discolored the white lettering just a little bit. See, these are the brackets here for the fairings. It does come with another one of these bolts here, so you can remove this bracket and put in that bolt if you want. I'm going to put it back to with the seat in the tank, the big tank, pretty soon. I mainly did this because I had to adjust the throttle cable. The throttle was very loose out of the box, and since it doesn't have the adjuster here that the R and greater models have, the adjustment is down on the carburetor, so you have to basically take the tank out to get to it. So I've got a fuel filter coming and some tubing that I'm going to extend the transmission vent with. So once I get all that installed, I will swap out the seat and such again. Yeah, this is what it looks like in trials mode. Pretty slick looking.